I thought I was just imagining things at first. It started a few weeks ago. I'd noticed him, an older guy, probably in his mid-30s, who always seemed to be around. He'd linger near the school gates or stand on the street corners, watching me from a distance. At first, I didn't think much of it. Maybe he was just a random stranger, or maybe he knew someone. But the more I saw him, the more it felt like he was waiting for me. I tried to ignore it, but each time I passed him, I felt a chill run down my spine. He never said anything. He just watched me with these cold, unblinking eyes. Then, one day, it wasn't just the staring. I got home from school and walked upstairs to my room, feeling like something was wrong. It wasn't anything I could explain, but something in the air was off. I opened the door to my room and stopped cold. The window was wide open. I was sure I closed it when I left that morning. I moved toward the window, peering out. Nothing seemed out of place, but that feeling of being watched washed over me again. I slammed the window shut and locked it, heart pounding. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling. That night, I woke to the sound of tapping. Tap, tap, tap. I rolled over, my clock reading 2:47 a.m. My mind raced. Was it just the house creaking? Was it the wind? But then the tapping came again, faster this time, more insistent. I lay frozen in bed, staring at the door, unable to move, unable to breathe. I got up cautiously, heart hammering in my chest, and moved toward the stairs. The sound of tapping was coming from the front door now. I stood there in the dark, barely able to make a sound. The doorbell rang once, followed by a slow, deliberate knock. Knock, knock, knock. I didn't know who would be at the door at this time of night. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. My legs moved of their own accord, pulling me toward the door. I peered through the peephole. Nothing. The porch was empty. Then my phone buzzed on the table next to me. I picked it up with shaking hands. There was a text, no name attached. "I can see you through the window. Let me in." My blood ran cold. I glanced at the window. I knew. I'd closed it earlier, but the curtain was moving slightly, as if a breeze had pushed it aside. I backed away from the door, but then I heard the sound of the lock turning. Slowly. The knob twisted and jiggled like someone was trying to get in. I gasped, feeling the panic rise in my throat. I ran upstairs, locked my bedroom door, and crawled under the blankets, but sleep wouldn't come. My phone buzzed again. "I know you're awake. I'm not leaving." I lay in the dark, paralyzed until I heard it, the soft scrape of footsteps on the floor below. They were heavy, deliberate, the sound of someone slowly moving through the house. I grabbed my phone, trying to dial my parents, but it flickered and died before I could press send. Suddenly, the door to my room creaked. I froze. And then a voice, low and smooth, drifted from the darkness. "You don't think I'd let you hide from me, do you?" It was him, the man who'd been watching me for weeks. His presence was suffocating. I could feel his eyes on me, even in the dark. I didn't know how he had gotten in. I didn't know how he knew where I lived or how he found my room. But there he was, in the doorway. His face was twisted into a cold grin, his breath slow and steady, like he was savoring the moment. He stepped inside, his eyes never leaving mine. I wanted to scream, to run, but my body wouldn't move. "You've been avoiding me, hiding in your little world," he said, stepping closer. "But I know where you are now, and I'm not leaving until you understand." My heart pounded in my chest. I could feel it in my throat, in my ears. He crouched down in front of me, his face inches from mine. I could smell the faint scent of something metallic on him, like rust or blood. "I've been watching you, waiting for you to realize I'm always here," he whispered, his breath cold on my skin. I backed away, but he grabbed my arm, his fingers digging into my skin, pulling me closer. His grip tightened, and I saw something flash in his hand, a gleam of metal, a knife. My vision blurred with panic. "You'll never be alone again," he murmured, and for a moment I thought I might pass out from fear, but just as I thought it was over, I heard something. A car. Tires screeching. My parents. The sound of them rushing up the stairs, shouting my name. The man hesitated, looking at the door, then at me. He smiled, and I saw the madness in his eyes. "I'll be back," he said, before turning and disappearing into the shadows of the hallway. I didn't know how long it took before my parents finally reached me. I didn't even know if I'd been dreaming, but when they pulled me into their arms, I didn't feel safe. Not anymore. He was still out there, and I knew, deep down, that he was never going to leave me alone.